Who do you see? Who do you see? Who's getting you mad? Who's getting you mad? Oh, you sound dangerous. Who's out there? Who's that? Is there a squirrel out there or something? Chipmunk? All right, we can't stay here all day. We gotta go out to that estate sale. Get some treasures, Daisy. All right, so for all of you used to seeing me go to estate sale treasure hunts and just crushing it, getting all sorts of bulk items, you know, of high value for a pretty low amount of money, you're gonna see something very different in this video, in which everything, in my opinion, is really overpriced, and I didn't wind up getting a single thing. I couldn't talk in there because it was just such tight quarters, and they had a lot of staff in each room to guard against theft. So we'll talk a little bit more about this afterwards, but you'll see me talk and show you things, and I'll put little prices over things. They're on the stickers, but just to make it easier to see, I actually just put the prices in. So you'll see that. I'll talk about it a little, and then we'll touch base right after this. So enjoy. Here we're going to go right to the house. All right, there's the line and the house. People waiting out there. We're just going to get in that line and get inside and see what we can find. So $75 for something signed by someone whose name I can't even make out. $50 for a generic looking painting. $125 for something written again by something I can't even really make out too well. $15 for this Tammany Hall piece, which the comps aren't even really worth it for that. It's an old Democrat institution in New York State. These Louisiana lottery state tickets, which are cool, but they're not worth it for $40. You could check the comps on that. $65 for that piece was way too much. Same with $30 for that basically newspaper clipping. This one could have been worth it if it was in mint condition, this $20 inaugural piece for Harry Truman. But as I looked at it under better light, you could see there's creases and stains on it and stuff, which just wouldn't make it worth it. So I wound up putting that back. Then there were these smaller figurine pieces and small hard pieces. The prices just seem too high. I see these things at estate sales for $5-10 or less sometimes. So $75 a piece. Just way too much for some of this stuff at an estate sale. The ones that I usually go to, this is actually the worst. $150 for this chair. There's just, I see chairs like that all the time for much less than that. $150, $50 for these prints. I mean, this is per print. This one is not for the entire box. So every single one of these things, $50. Sorry, once again, I will find these types of things at other estate sales for pennies sometimes. I mean, I could buy them in bulk for that. So it's just one thing after another. Now, here's the table. This is the main table in the main room, and these are these box lots, and you'll see the prices on them. And I just decided to take you through a few of them to give you examples, but this is a good example here. Now, I love paper stuff, but this one's $40, and as you go through it, I mean, not that there's not some individual pieces in there that you can sell, but it would be hard to even get the $40 back out of this. So I was really only going to go for something that I could clearly crush it on, because the paper products do take some time to go through if you're going to get a whole lot of them. So I want to make sure it's worth it. A lot of the stuff was damaged, stained up. Like, you'll see another example of something coming up pretty soon here. This old coin piece. I mean, if you look at all the yellowing on it and stuff, that would be a really tough piece to sell. And, just a lot of the stuff was just, pretty plain Jane type of stuff. There were some nice little advertising pieces, like you just saw, there were some wrappers there. But then there's stuff like this natural and manufactured gas thing no one's really going to want. So could I have gotten $40 out of this box? Probably. If I pieced it out, I could have. This Tea-Berry thing is pretty cool. But, I wanted to definitely be able to triple my money on this type of stuff. And you could see in general, the price is just way too much. Like this one, not even worth it. Doesn't even sell based on comps. This thing's got a $40 price tag on it. There's nothing special about this. You just slapped a $40 price on it. So I mean, this is another example. I see these all the time. These are like old viewfinder pictures. You put them in, you get this stereoscopic view of what's on the back of the card. I get these things for pennies. I have plenty of them. You can find them in postcard lots. $40 for just that much? No way. That is just way too much money. Here's another example. You can see how much they're charging for the lot. This one is $35, and it's just some generic fireman stuff, fire protection stuff, and some of it's damaged, like this fire chief manual. This firefighter's one. I mean, look at this. Look at that. Who's going to pay for that? So, again, maybe there's a couple things in there, like that coloring book, maybe someone would pay for, but overall, no way, not for $35. This one looks cool, right? But you could check the comms on it. It's not even worth the $10. So you got to be careful with political stuff. Now, this room was the worst. This was the worst. These farmer almanacs. Now there were a lot of these things here, but when you see the prices on them in a few minutes, you're not even gonna believe what they wanted for it. We'll come back to it, but this is the Spider-Man art, which I was excited to see at first, but my goodness, it's a crappy old Spider-Man book, and it's not even original Spider-Man art, and they want $250 for it. These are some signatures from political figures, but it's no one who's even that great. No one even, who's super famous or anything like that. I mean, there's maybe like a couple notable people in there, but nothing worth, $200. I mean, Jack Kemp. No one's going around buying Jack Kemp photographs. I mean, with autographs on them, trust me. So, even though he did play football, it's just not worth it. Just big thumbs down from the primetime treasure hunter here. So this is what I was talking about. I mean, look at these. These are, now granted, they're old and you would expect some damage, but they are way too damaged to ask $325 for all of these. Again, yes, I realize they're old, but this is just absolutely too much. Now, this was one I was thinking of getting. These these comics here, they go to Tex Taylor, Blaze Carson. Those you could get like $10-15 a piece out of. So I said, all right, I could get my money back, like the $40 out of those. They date back to like the 1950s. But then these here, they're just too damaged, and the titles are just not great. So you've got to be careful with comic books. I'd really like to have seen old superhero characters here, but this kind of stuff, alley-oop, I mean, people just aren't looking for it. And when you start adding all the damage on the back and stuff, you got to be careful. Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, not that desirable. There are some titles that are. Baby Huey, not at all. No one really wants that. Count of Monte Cristo, and just not that great. This Spider-Man coloring book, I did open it up after this, and there's coloring inside of it, which really takes the value down. And then these other two just really aren't worth it. So just got to move past it. Yeah, it's Spider-Man, but it's Marvel Team Up, and it's just not worth a ton. Then there was a bunch of money, and I don't do much at all with money. I do some stuff with coins. So I can't tell you in terms of the prices. If you specialize in coins, you could let me know. But you could see me zooming in on some of the prices here, and it just seemed way too much. I wasn't going to take a gamble on these coins and on these, on those bills without knowing enough about it. Daisy, what is that? You got a little bone there? What is that bone right there? That's one of your toys from your secret spot? Where you going? Oh, you're going in your little bed? Have fun. Enjoy. All right, folks, so there it is. Walked out with absolutely nothing. And sometimes that's what you have to do. The temptation sometimes, if you did invest your time traveling out to a place, waiting in a line, is to buy something just to kind of, justify the time that you put into it. But, sometimes you just have to walk out and say, you know what, this just wasn't a good situation. It's just not worth it for me to spend any money here at all, because then I'm just losing more than just my time. So it didn't make sense for me to drop down $20, $40, $200, $325 for things that I would not be able to do well within my business. Now, that's not to say that there were not some people there that could have gotten some things that they liked, but it wasn't really the reseller type that was going in and getting that type of stuff. It was more collectors. So there was a guy in there who collected postcards, who wound up buying a binder of postcards, a small binder, for $178. Now, I saw him flip through them. I saw the postcards that were in there. There was nothing in there that jumped out to me. Granted, I'm not a postcard expert, but I do sell postcards, so I have had an increased familiarity with buying and selling them over the past year particularly, and didn't see anything in there worth $178. I get them for pennies. I have thousands behind me that look very similar to what he had. So collectors will pay up, but for resale, not worth it. Saw someone else come out and spent over $2,000, wrote a check for over $2,000 for some sterling silver. So, you know, if that's the type of stuff that you're looking for, it could make sense. And so I get it in one sense of what he was doing, and it kind of justifies him doing that if there are people who are going to come there and spend that kind of money. But at the same time, you do have to be mindful that there's other clientele. There's also the resale clientele coming in there. And so they're not going to pay those kind of prices for stuff. And I knew I was in for trouble when I was standing in that line, and the regulars who I know, who I see go to all the different sales, were just walking out one after another with disappointed looks on their faces, empty-handed. And so I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen when I walked in there. So sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. And I wanted to also just show you this again, just to let you know that not every single sale that I go to is one that I crush it at. But, you know, I do tend to stay away from certain dealers who have sales like this. And this is one particular dealer who I will generally stay away from, or will be at the lower end of my list to go to. Not that I'll completely avoid it, because there are some times where I've made some good deals, but it tends to be in situations where it's a big house that you could really roam through. This was very small, very, very tight quarters where they were just letting a few people in at a time. There were just people looking. There were multiple people in each room staring at you. It was like a museum in there. It was pretty quiet. You heard a little bit of rumbling, maybe a little bit of talking here and there, but for the most part, very, very quiet. They even had another room, the room with the coins. That one was actually closed off, and you had to wait outside just to get permission to go in the room with one other person, and they had multiple people in there looking at you. And there's a reason for that. There is theft that happens at estate sales. And so with those type of higher price items, I get why they wanted to be careful. But it was just a tough situation for resellers like myself who are going to try to get bulk deals, but that just wasn't the situation for it. I had hoped that maybe there would be something I could do with those bulk paper items, but it just didn't really make sense. And that's really my last point. My last lesson of the video is to make sure you are careful with bulk purchases. We love to do bulk purchases. We always talk about it here on this channel. You can do well with them. Don talks about that as well at his channel, again, The Auction Professor. But you know, sometimes if the bulk stuff isn't really worth it, and you're gonna have to put in a ton of time just to make your money back, and then maybe make a little bit more over that, it's not worth it. The time investment just isn't worth it. And so that's why I didn't go forward on any one of those deals. So be careful, not only at estate sales, but also be careful when you're buying in bulk online, whether it be eBay or some type of online liquidator service or Amazon pallets or something like that. Make sure you're checking manifest to make sure that what you're getting, you're actually going to be able to make a lot more back than what you're putting into it, especially when factoring in the time. So that's all that I have for you today. Let me know what you thought about the voiceover feature. Haven't done that before. Usually I just talk into it. Again, I couldn't do that there, so I needed to improvise. So testing out something a little bit new. If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Come by to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link is down below. And also check out my Instagram. I'm putting a lot of stuff up over there. That's at prime_time_treasure. And don't forget, hit that bell icon up top for notifications for when I go live. And you won't want to miss this Wednesday night as I go live with the Craigslist hunter himself. We'll catch up, and we're going to talk a lot about vintage electronics. So hope to see you there, folks. Take care. Bye, Daisy. See you later. See you at the next video. Take care.